recovery from addiction to either substance or behaviour. And my addictive substance, alcohol, my behaviour, just as addictive over the years, work, relationships, materialism, trying to look right, trying to be right, putting on an act, putting on a brave face, covering up my fears. And often I didn't even know what my fears were. I didn't even know I was living in fear. And I didn't know what the fear was. It was there, an all-pervading feeling of not being good enough and not feeling right, feeling less than, always trying to catch up, always trying to understand where happiness and joy and bliss might be, or just peacefulness. So these days I try and find peacefulness, a bit of joy, a bit of serenity on a daily basis. And sometimes it's quite difficult. It's like everything in life, we work at it. Life is difficult, as M. Scott Peck said. And apparently, according to his obituary, he was a chain-smoking, gin-sodden philanderer. And he died at 69. So, you know, what sort of life did he have? And the question, I suppose, there is, we can write about it, talk about it, deliver speeches all about it. That's all about life. And actually, the gift is living life in the moment of now, understanding our spiritual connection to life, life in the moment, this imperfectly perfect moment of now. And what's that got to do with addiction? Well, if anybody's lived in fear of something, not sure where drinking went to dependent drinking and then to addiction, and as I say, if it wasn't alcohol it would have been something else, a substance or a behaviour. Where are we if we can get to recovery? And the answer is we meet the day as it is, and that's life on life's terms. So I'm very grateful actually just to be in recovery one day at a time. If you give me a longer time scale, I'm looking into the future, and I can't live the future. And if I'm looking backwards, it gives me wisdom, experience, strength and hope of what is good for me and what is bad for me. And it would be unhelpful for me to try and think or feel it would be okay to try a drink or to, I suppose, fix myself in some way. So these days I don't want to fix myself, I want to live. I want to live in the moment of now and experience whatever it is I'm feeling, whatever the emotion is, so that it informs me of where I am and hopefully in the moment of now. So what has helped me get into recovery? Well, family who love me long enough and through the most difficult of times, and friends and community and professionals who kept me going when I didn't know how to keep myself going, until I got those moments of clarity. And I was a very poor student when it came to getting out of addiction. And the reason why? I used my intellect, my thinking, my self-will run riot to self-obsession. And what I didn't realise was trying to go it alone made me isolated, shameful, guilty, negative about what I could portray to the world. So if anybody rang me up, if I dared answer the phone, I would say, yes, I'm okay. And if anybody came to the door, when I had a door, I wasn't homeless, I wouldn't answer it. I would shut the curtains, shut down, not open envelopes, and it's no wonder I ended up homeless. And that's just part of the story. And, you know, it's sad when we think we've got everything, and then we have nothing. Or we have everything, and it feels like we have nothing. And what I'm learning on a daily basis, with a bit of fellowship in my life, and family, and society, and professionals, that life can work as it can. No bigger, no smaller, that's me, than anybody else. Just making sense of the moment and living in the moment, hopefully. So what has helped me along the way? Fellowship, the fellowship of AA, Alcoholics Anonymous, full of unique, authentic people, unique and authentic people on their own unique, authentic path, with one similarity which keeps us together in fellowship. So we find not only fellowship but friendship. We find how to be ourselves, how to love each other, and to be loved and to love. And then find something useful to do, which is part of what I do here. So what is AA doing for me? Well, I share literature here, as well as the message of it's okay to get to recovery, to put down the fear, the guilt, the shame, and get on with life, and try and be a part of again. So there is a statement of intent about what AA is about, and it's called the AA Preamble, shared at every meeting, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and to help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. I think I said one line over again there, that's why I paused. Progress, not perfect, and I've been saying this for a long time. I could recite it, but then I'd forget it. And in reading it, I'm slowing myself down into the moment of now. That is what it's all about for me, living in the moment, not looking back and staring, but not forgetting. And also, you know, if anybody reminds me of my past, it's quite right that they do, because they have something to say about it. And often we want to brush it under the carpet, but it's better just to say, yes, my God, that was then, and thank goodness it's now. And don't try and deny or put off or shove away anything these days. Deal with it openly, honestly, and with a willing heart, so that I don't have to hide away or feel shameful about the fact that I have a chronic ailment, and that is alcoholism. Yeah, and it's recovery one day at a time. So even the professionals will give you different answers about what is right or wrong around this subject. Some people talk about being recovered. Some people talk about being in recovery. It's a personal choice how you wish to label yourself, but being in recovery suits me fine. And I don't have to worry about it. Anyway, the daily reflections for today in this book, 12 steps of action in the 12-step action program of AA to help us change our attitudes and behaviour on a daily basis. So we have literature, daily readings, a big book to take to bed with us if we are suffering from insomnia, you name it. There's something there to keep us industrious towards being in the moment and living it. And for today it says, united we stand. We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. In other words, we've crossed a line, and if we try to go back over it, back to where we thought we were, I think most people find it bites us back. I came to Alcoholics Anonymous because I was no longer able to control my drinking. It was either my wife's complaining about my drinking, or maybe the sheriff forced me to go to AA meetings, or perhaps I knew deep down inside that I couldn't drink like others, but I was unwilling to admit it because the alternative terrified me. That is a life without a drink. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women united against a common fatal disease. Each one of our lives is linked to every other, much like the survivors on a life raft at sea. If we all work together, we can get safely to shore. And for me, either it's to get to the shoreline and safe ground, or in the lifeboat again, because we can always dive back into the ocean and do a bit more research. Not recommended by me, not now. Anyway, the serenity prayer at the end of my videos is to God or good conscience, whatever is your particular belief, faith, or understanding of what helps, and it's around acceptance. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference, for me, is just for today. My substance, alcohol, my behaviour, trying to be perfect and never so. And I guess I thought the world wanted me to be perfect, or to be striving for perfection. And I can remember many years ago one boss saying to me when I got a new promotion into a different role within an organisation, whatever you do, don't let me down, as if I would, and as if they were the influence that got me that job. It may have been, I don't know, but I look back and think to myself, I always drove myself to strive hard, work hard, and do everything to the absolute limit, so it was no wonder really that I fell into addiction. And looking back with a bit more of a sober perspective, it's taken me a long time to understand what was driving me, and a lot of the time it was fear of failure, and it was about my ego and about putting on a brave face, all those things we learn in the playground all those years before. And it's very difficult to break those patterns if we have those patterns set from the very start. So fear was a good motivator for me, and to a large extent it still is when I have to get out of the way of traffic. And I failed miserably one night this week and ended up on the pavement due to a passenger of a taxi cab opening their door when I was going past. So there you go, it can happen to anybody, anytime, anywhere, and I'm just glad I didn't fall into the oncoming traffic. So that's a bit about me, and I said to the taxi driver, you know, it's 50-50. Maybe I could have avoided it had I not been where I was. And he had no real control over his passengers in this case, who just opened the door because they felt like it. So some things we are powerless over, and I've come to understand that I'm powerless over alcohol, people, places and things as well. So rather than try and control the world, I've learned that it's better not to control anything, but to try and get to a place of good choices, simply good choices based on my surroundings, where I am, who I'm with, and the place I sit in. So there's no alcohol in my flat, and I don't want to put myself through that aggravation or that taunting of my inner being, which might be persuaded one day that it might be a good idea to try it again. And what keeps me clean is the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous. And it's part of the story. There are professional people who were involved along the way, medical support, and a very good hospital nearby which revived me when I'd gone too far. And those are things I have to admit because it's part of me. I was a bit of a failure when it came to stopping drinking, and without help and support I wouldn't have done it. I tried willpower and self-will and obsession, and the obsession of willpower, and it was bound to fail, because if we try to use our willpower, our self-will will fail. I know that. I've learned it. And the Fellowship of AA meetings all over London, 600. I'm very lucky and very fortunate to be in a capital which actually knows and understands that AA needs a place to be, and we find church halls and God knows what else around the capital and where we can have our meetings. And at meetings we always share this preamble, and it goes like this. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women who share their experience, strength and hope with each other, that they may solve their common problem and help others to recover from alcoholism. The only requirement for membership is a desire to stop drinking. There are no dues or fees for AA membership. We are self-supporting through our own contributions. AA is not allied with any sect, denomination, politics, organisation or institution, does not wish to engage in any controversy, neither endorses nor opposes any causes. Our primary purpose is to stay sober and help other alcoholics to achieve sobriety. So that's what we do. We just meet and we learn something about experience, strength and hope. What keeps us sober one day at a time. And I went to the meeting at the Boltons last night, which is one of my favourite haunts, because a lot of people I know go there, and it's good to be able to identify with other people who are in recovery and to listen to somebody who I hadn't heard before, well, not for at least a week, give their chair. And it featured about fear and faith, and you know, when we hear about fear and faith, the saying is, when fear comes knocking on the door, faith answers. And sometimes it does, and sometimes it doesn't. It just depends on how bad things are and what we're trying to face. So in our emotional, spiritual lives, when fear comes knocking on the door, faith may work. But when a bailiff or the credit crunch comes knocking on the door, fear answers it often, because we just haven't got the money or the wherewithal to deal with what is happening around us. And that's another form of powerlessness. So I've talked about clinical depression being a state of powerlessness. And sometimes the material economic climate is making us feel powerless because there is nothing we can do to stop
the rot. It's a bigger thing than us. So what do we do in AA when that happens? Well, we accept where we are today, and we work with people who are interconnected with our situation. So be it a credit crunch, a credit squeeze, or just a squeeze on our reality, a day at a time, we have to actually adjust ourselves to what is going on. And what helps me also are the books of, or literature of AA, like this one, Daily Reflections. And January is all about step 1. We are powerless over alcohol, and life is unmanageable when we drink. And that's why I'm concentrating so much on powerlessness this month. And it's a good thing. I say it every morning. I'm powerless over people, places and things. And in that there is some negotiation and choices to be made based on reality. And my understanding of the spiritual connection to living is in the here and now, right this moment, and not any other moment, because we can only experience spiritual as it's happening. So if we get to the truth of what is going on around us, truth is spiritual and reality is spiritual. And those are the greatest gifts we have, to be able to see reality and truth as it is. But obviously, because of our backgrounds, we may find that truth is very difficult to find. So it's a quest, and it's a quest on a daily basis. Anyway, for January the 10th, from this book, it says, "United we stand." We learned that we had to fully concede to our innermost selves that we were alcoholics. This is the first step in recovery. The delusion that we are like other people, or presently may be, has to be smashed. And that comes from Alcoholics Anonymous, Big Book, page 30. It goes on to say, "I came to Alcoholics Anonymous because I was no longer able to control my drinking. It was either my wife's complaining about my drinking, or maybe the sheriff forced me to go to AA meetings, or perhaps I knew deep down inside that I couldn't drink like others, but I was unwilling to admit it, because the alternative terrified me. Alcoholics Anonymous is a fellowship of men and women united against a common fatal disease. Each one of our lives is linked to every other, much like the survivors of the life raft at sea. If we all work together, we can get safely to shore." And it's like an ocean of alcohol is around us all the time, and we're on a life raft. And if we dive in, the trouble is we go sink, because once we get the taste for it again, it's very difficult to get out of a relapse, because why do we do it? It could be an idle moment, or an idle thought, a persuasive innermost, I don't know what they call John Barleycorn, that inner voice that wakes up with us. So I always say the serenity prayer when I wake up in the morning. Grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, courage to change the things I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. And the other book I use is As Bill Sees It. And I'm working my way through. I'm nearly at the end of it, and then I'll start again, because they all work on different days. "Welcome criticism. Thanks much for your letter of criticism. I'm certain that had it not been for its strong critics, AA would have been made more slow progress. For myself, I have come to set a high value on the people who have criticised me, whether they have seemed reasonable critics or unreasonable ones. Both have often restrained me from doing much worse than I actually have done. The unreasonable ones have taught me, I hope, a little patience, but the reasonable ones have always done a great job for all of AA, and have taught me many a valuable lesson." And that's the gift, really. You know, we need criticism. I suppose constructive criticism is one way of putting it, or to challenge and support people. And I get plenty of criticism here on YouTube, which is good, because I need it. Yes, even the good stuff or the bad stuff, I do need it, because it's interactive, and my life is interactive with the whole of society. And without some challenge and support, and some criticism, where would we all be?